There's a movie about a WWE wrestler and critics like it. But what does an actual wrestling fan think about it? I'm Adamic, a lifelong wrestling fan. And man, have I taken some crap about that over the years. But now my 30 years of wrestling research has paid off. Yeah, that was time well spent, right? Make sure to hit the subscribe button. And now let's take a look at Fighting With My Family. This is a comedy drama based on the true story of WWE wrestler Paige. She grew up in a family of wrestlers. Her mom and dad were both wrestlers. So were her brothers. And the family ran a wrestling promotion and a training school in England. So the movie is about Paige growing up in this family, learning to wrestle, and then eventually signing with the WWE. Lena, Headey, that's Cersei Lannister from Game of Thrones, she plays Paige's mom. Vince Vaughn, he's a generic WWE Performance Center coach. And The Rock, well, he shows up for a few cameos because he produced the film and, well, they wanted to get some star power in there. Wrestling has rarely come off well in the media. Movies about wrestling like No Holds Barred or TV shows that have featured wrestling like Boy Meets World have always been kind of embarrassing. The wrestling is always portrayed really goofy and over the top, and now it just seems like the movies or show is making fun of it and really doesn't respect it. So at the beginning of Fighting With My Family, I actually felt really relieved because it seemed like there was a movie that finally respected wrestling. The wrestling, it wasn't great in the movie, but it seemed like the film respected it and the fans, so I enjoyed it. The first part of the movie was fun. You meet Paige's family, there's some funny stuff. Then she gets signed to the WWE Developmental Territory NXT, and it's at this point that the movie kind of just becomes garbage. Yeah. Much of the humor goes away at this point, and most of the true story part seems to go away as well. They just start ignoring and glossing over lots of stuff. As a wrestling fan, you'd expect to see Paige interact with Triple H, the man who runs NXT, as well as some of the trainers like Bill DeMott, Matt Bloom, or Dusty Rhodes. Some of these people are legendary, some of these people are very controversial, but you'd think some of that would be in there. You'd also think she'd run into WWE owner Vince McMahon. None of these figures are mentioned or seem to exist at all in this movie. Instead, Vince Vaughn plays some made-up generic Performance Center coach that, according to the movie, signed Paige and is pretty much responsible for her entire career. Other wrestlers that Paige knew and interacted with in NXT, like Emma, Summer Rae, Charlotte Flair, Sasha Banks, Xavier Woods, or her ex-boyfriend Brad Maddox, there's some stories there, none of them exist in the film. In fact, no real wrestlers exist in the film except for Paige, her family, The Rock, Big Show, and Sheamus. Every other wrestler in the film is a made-up generic placeholder character. There's one girl that I think is supposed to be Summer Rae, but they call her Jerry Lynn. It feels like the old NES Pro Wrestling game where they didn't have a license to use Ric Flair, so they had a guy that sort of looked like Ric Flair and called him King Slender. Now the crazy part is, they shouldn't have had any issue with using any wrestler names or characters in this film, since the WWE supposedly helped make the film. So perhaps they were trying to avoid a lawsuit in case someone came off badly in the movie. Unfortunately, with all the generic made-up characters in the movie, it really starts to feel like a low-budget, unauthorized, Lifetime biopic. It's not just an issue with generic characters, though. They completely ignore some pretty big things in Paige's life that would have made for a much more interesting movie. There's no mention at all of the abortion that Paige had when she was around 18 years old. No mention of her issues with drugs or alcohol, her bisexuality, or her sex tape. Now, you could argue that this is a family-friendly movie, so they wanted to avoid controversial topics. But they do mention Paige's dad and brother doing jail time, Paige's mom being homeless and doing drugs, and Paige's brother getting his girlfriend pregnant. So in the film, the family has issues, but Paige seems to have absolutely none at all. She just kind of comes off as the least dynamic character of the family because the film ignores all of her interesting stuff. It's not just the controversial stuff that the film ignores. It also ignores Paige becoming the first ever NXT Women's Champion, it's kind of a big deal. She basically just gets signed to the WWE, has a moment of doubt, there's some generic training montages, and then she wins the Divas Championship. Nothing at all happens in NXT, according to the film. And that Divas Championship win? Well, it's almost entirely different than how it actually happened. AJ Lee, who Paige won the title from, is played by Zelina Vega in the film. She doesn't act or dress like AJ at all. It's like a completely different character, but they call her AJ Lee. According to the movie, Paige was nervous, forgot her lines, and then won the title in a legitimate match. This is where things get really weird in the movie, because earlier on in the film, it was acknowledged that matches are worked. And you saw during the wrestling sequences that wrestlers would talk to each other and call spots in the ring. Yet, when it comes to the Divas Championship match, it's suddenly presented as a shoot fight. This film really has an odd, disjointed feel to it. Early on, it felt like they were trying to respect wrestling and the fans while telling Paige's story. And then by the end, it seemed like they didn't care about any of the facts at all and no longer really respected the industry. It was as if a different writer or director had finished the film. Fighting with my family, it doesn't seem completely to know who its audience is. Wrestling fans are going to probably be disappointed because you really don't see any behind-the-scenes stuff as Paige rises up. The non-wrestling fans, well, they're probably not going to get half the jokes and aren't going to have that much of a reason to see the film because, well, Paige isn't Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, or The Rock. She's not a household name that the casual fan or person who's not really into wrestling is going to really be all that into, and the family drama isn't that interesting. 2 out of 5 stars on this. Tell me what you think, leave a comment, and please like, share, and subscribe. You can find me online at ADAMICradio.com and all the social media places, ADAMIC Radio as well. I'm Adamic. I'll see you later.